Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Acura ADX. You've got a fully digital cluster screen with a few things that are fixed into place. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know about the ride. First thing to point out is that the steering wheel is manual adjust inside of the ADX. So just down by your left knee, there's a release. Telescoping, so in and out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. The steering wheel is also heated, so a button along the very bottom. So if yours is heated, button there, and it's heated all the way around. And there are so many different buttons and stalks. So let's actually start off along the outside. You can open and close the liftgate from the inside. You can toggle traction control off. The only time I really recommend that one is if you're driving around wintertime or slippery conditions and you're not getting any sort of wheel traction. And then you can also turn on your front windshield defroster. There's also driver's seat memory available inside of the ride, so just get your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to. You're just going to then tap set in either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. Stick along the left-hand side is going to be for your lights. You're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. And the reason why is because if you've got the auto headlamp setting enabled inside of your infotainment system, so if we go into our vehicle settings there, and then you've got lighting, you've got your auto high beam, so keep that one enabled. And the reason why is because if the vehicle recognizes that your high beams are needed at night, it flips them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. If you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out though, go into the bottom headlight mode. Push away to turn those high beams on, pull towards you to turn them off. You just want to be in the auto mode though, the majority of the time. And then if you've got fogs, it's toggling those on or off as necessary. And then obviously, you've got your blinkers there. Your pad along the left-hand side, you can do a few things. So you've got your voice command prompt where you can tap there if you wanted to be able to change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice and things like that. If you had a phone connected, so whether that was an Android or an iPhone, if you push and hold it, that's going to act as a voice assistant prompt instead there. So it's going to activate either your Siri or your Google Assistant. You've got a scroll wheel there to move between what's going on inside of the display, which we'll touch on later. And then you've got a volume rocker, so you can adjust your volume up, down this way. You can also use the rocker along the screen there if you want to. You can change between songs or stations this way. On top of that, your stick along the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. So you can move up in order to go for just a single wipe. When you drop down a level though, that's where you get into the intermittent mode. And that's where you get into adjusting this in order to have it go faster or slower. And then you've got the crazy modes that are available too. And then you've also got the rocker on the outside there, and that's going to be for your rear wiper. So you can adjust that out. You're going to pull in towards you to get that front wiper fluid going, and then you're just going to twist down either way, so up or down this way, to get that rear wiper fluid going. You're also going to find this little camera button. So if you tap that, that is going to be for your camera. So you can tap a few times in order to get to a few different views. So you tap once, you can adjust it to your side-by-side view, your 360 view, etc. Just to the side-by-side full or that full 360 view. The pad along the right-hand side, you've got a few options. So you've got cruise control inside of the ride with 2 different types of cruise. So it's either going to be traditional or there's adaptive cruise. So the difference, traditional cruise, let's say if you've got it set at 80, the car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. With adaptive, that's where your gap adjustment here comes into play. So what that means is that let's say if you set it at 80, car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your previously set speed. So you toggle the system on by tapping the on button there. So you can see there that it's kind of opened up the screen for us there, letting us know that cruise control is now enabled. You'd then push down in order to be able to set your speed. Yeah, so it's saying this just because I'm stopped into place, but you'd set your speed there. You'd then increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, push and hold up or push and hold down to increase larger increments. So it essentially brings you to the nearest 5 or 0. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the cancel button to cancel your speed. Then you push up to resume your previously set speed again. And then you've got your distance indicator here. So there are 4 unique levels. It's how close or far are you away from that leading vehicle. And that's for the adaptive cruise control system. So I'm personally okay level 1 or 2 the majority of the time. You might want to be on level 3 or 4, just depending on your own personal comfort level. But play around with this setting a little bit. Level 4 for sure if you're driving in snowy, slippery conditions, but you've got different options. But if you take that button now, if you push and hold it for a second, Look at that. So cruise mode selected. So we're now in the traditional old school cruise control mode instead. So that's the one where you set your speed at 80, car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. So you just have to be paying attention. But when you push and hold again, that tweaks you out to adaptive cruise control. And that's where we get into this, so our distance indicator. But if you want a live demonstration of actually using the cruise control system, check down in the description of this video. The one to point out here is that you've got your lane keeping system. So the way that that one works is if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, get a little message in the cluster, but can also gently nudge you back into your lane. And then you've got a little scroll wheel to adjust the right side of the cluster, which we'll touch on in just a second. And then you've also got paddle shifters on the ride. So you've got your minus along the left side with your plus along the right-hand side. So this is a CVT, so it doesn't have any traditional gears per se, but it changes out the shift points. So rather than it shifting at, let's say, 2,500 RPM, it might hang off and shift at 4,000 or 5,000 plus RPM to give you a slightly sportier performance. So that is available there. But if you've never used paddle shifters before and you want a better explanation and understanding of when and why, how to use them, you'll find that down in the description of this video. And then inside of the cluster screen, you've got so many things. So your engine temperature along the outside and your fuel gauge are always there. So those are locked into place. You've got your tachometer there, along with a few things which you can adjust using the pad along this side. We'll dive into that in a second. You've got what gear you're currently in. So park, reverse, neutral, drive, or that dedicated sport mode. And then as you move between all of your different dynamic modes. I love how it changes up the look. Gives you a slightly more aggressive look. Something different. You've got the mode that you're in there. And then you've also got your current odometer along the very bottom, and then your speedometer this way with a bunch of different gauges. So diving in, you've got your rocker along this side, which is going to let you jump between all of your available audio sources there. You can hit customize display in order to be able to hide or show things. So audio and clock, you can completely hide that too if you want. So hold on, we go off. It's just a naked screen now until you jump around back into this screen. So if you always want your date and time or your audio there, you can add that in, yay, nay. I don't know, what do you think? Kind of looks nice without it. But you've got all of your different audio sources available there too. But if let's just add this back in for a sec because it looks nicer on camera. And then as we move across, you've got all of your sources. So if we customize the display and then hide and show, what sources do you never use? So maybe you never use Alexa, you never use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc. You can select whatever ones are showing up there. So now as we go back a level, so go up and back, and now we go back there. Now we're only scrolling between the options that we want to scroll between. So it's not all of the extra options. So customized display and back will always be there. You can select whatever options are showing up there otherwise, or back to your basic display. And then you can adjust out some things along the middle part here, and that's using the rocker along the right-hand side. So we go up and down this way, and you could, at the very bottom there we go, you've got your range and your fuel information. So you can tap the button in the middle there if you wanted to jump between your A versus B counter, or you take that same button and you push and hold it, and that brings you up to this screen where you'd be able to either reset or cancel out. And then back down gives you your basic speed and time. Same idea, push and hold in order to be able to reset that information. You can move into navigation. So if you had an active route going, it would show you turn-by-turn directions right inside of the cluster screen there. If you didn't have a navigation route going, obviously you can see that it's just a compass view, but look at that. Little turn-by-turn direction. So it's nothing exciting, and it's strictly for Google Maps built into the device. It's the infotainment system. So if your phone was hooked up, it wouldn't show your maps through your phone inside of the cluster screen there. And then you've got your driver attention warning. So if you start to veer over too many times, that counter starts going up. If you start dozing off, etc., eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break, but you can also adjust that out through the infotainment system. You can see which wheel is getting which amount of power, or which axle as you drive. It's going to let you know if there's weight on the seat, whether or not people have their seatbelts plugged in, yay, nay. Maintenance info, so if you're changing oil yourself, you can adjust that or reset that, I should say, through the infotainment system. You've got your available tire pressure there. Safety and support. So you've got a series of different safety systems that are available. So you can adjust these out. So your road departure mitigation. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, can nudge you back into your lane. There are different things for your blind spot system. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it'll highlight to let you know. Different parking ones, collision mitigation, braking. So if you're potentially going to get into a collision, but you can remove or disable, I should say, all of these safety settings if you really wanted to. I'd say the majority of them are probably a good idea to keep on, but I mean, that one comes into a matter of preference. I personally just drive around with all of these settings enabled. They're there. You may as well use them. And then you've got your basic back button there again in order to get back to the main screen, and then no content if you just want a naked screen there. You can adjust at the brightness, same idea, we're hitting there, and then moving up or down to adjust it out. Push in the middle in order to set. And then you've got your gauge settings, so same idea, button push the middle there in order to be able to show off your speed distance units. So do you want to be in either miles or kilometers? I just love how quick that does it. This is one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster. And then you can hide and show certain things. So if you're never going to use your speed, navigation, attention warnings, etc., there are grayed out ones that have to be there. But other than that, you can disable these other ones. So if you don't want these other screens showing up in your little scroll wheel, if we go back to our main page here, so as you scroll through, it's which options do you want showing up there. So you can enable, disable all of these things as necessary. Along the outside here, you've got your shifter. So your park, reverse, neutral, drive with a dedicated sport mode inside of the vehicle too. You've got your paddle shifters, but you've also got a series of other options along the outside here. So you've got an individual mode. When you go into your individual mode here, you can actually adjust it out through the infotainment system. So what do you want the individual mode to do? You want your engine to be sport mode. Do you want it to be steering? So you've got either comfort, normal, or sport steering. Comfort, you have to throw a little bit more to turn. Your normal is just your regular day-to-day cruising versus sport stiffens things up nicely. You can adjust out the engine sound and things like that. And then you can adjust out your regular drive mode by going up and down this way and adjust out the look there, but it also slightly adjusts out the cluster screen. So you can see as you go from normal into sport, makes it red, gives it a bit more of an aggressive look. Comfort mode and then snow mode, which is going to play with traction control and stability control. So you can easily adjust this out from there. You've got your auto start stop system. So that's the one where if you come down to a complete stop and then the vehicle may decide to turn off the engine for you. You can toggle it off this way. When you do, on off, you get a message in the cluster screen. It's up to the vehicle when it toggles it off. There's your downhill brake control, your electronic parking brake. So pull up to turn it on, hit the brake pedal, push down in order to turn it off. And then there's your brake hold setting there too. With the brake hold setting, if you've got that enabled, if you're in drive, you come down to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake, the car is not going to move. So I know that is a heck of a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Acura ADX.